I never thought I'd find myself in a situation like this, honestly. I've always believed in the idea of loyalty, in the sanctity of marriage, and that when you marry someone, you trust them completely. My wife, Emily, and I had been together for over 10 years. We had our issues, sure. Who does? But overall, I thought we had a decent, stable relationship. She's the kind of woman who always had a sharp tongue, a quick wit, and a way of twisting words to make herself seem right, even when she was dead wrong. That was part of the charm, or so I told myself. We had a pretty good life, or at least I thought we did. We had a nice house, decent jobs, a little girl we both adored, and a routine that seemed unbreakable. Emily was a drama queen, always throwing tantrums when she didn't get her way, but she also knew how to turn on the charm and make you forget her bitchy side. Still, something felt off lately. She had been more irritable than usual, snapping at me over small things, arguing over dumb stuff. She'd go out with friends, come back late, and act like nothing was wrong. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was going on. One day, I noticed her phone kept buzzing. She was always quick to hide it from me, slipping it away whenever I got close. That wasn't unusual. She's always been secretive about her phone, but I started paying more attention. I'd catch her glancing at messages, deleting conversations, acting nervous if I got too close. It was subtle, but enough to make me suspicious. I'd ask her about it and she'd brush me off with some snarky remark. "Oh, it's just work stuff, relax." Or, "You worry too much, you're imagining things." But I knew her too well. That defensive attitude told me she was hiding something. Then it happened. A few days ago, I decided to surprise her by going to her phone while she was in the shower. I know, big mistake, but I was desperate for answers. I had a gut feeling, and I needed to know if I was just being paranoid or if there was real trouble. I grabbed her phone, unlocked it, and started scrolling through her messages. That's when I saw the photos. At first, I thought they were just innocent shots, maybe her friends or family. But then I realized they were. They were intimate, very intimate, and not just with her friends. They were with a guy I'd never seen before, a photographer we hired for our family portrait session last month. The photos were taken during the sessions, him behind the camera, her in different poses, but the ones that hit me hardest were the close-up shots. She was leaning into him, her hand on his chest, and in some they looked like they were caught in the middle of sex. No clothes, no shame. I stared at those images for what felt like forever, my stomach twisting in knots. My mind refused to accept it at first. I kept telling myself it was just a prank, maybe a joke. But the digital footprint was undeniable. She had kept the pictures and they were stored right there in her phone. It was so blatant, so sickening. I felt like I had been punched in the gut. When I confronted her about it later that day, she acted like I was crazy. She called me paranoid, called me insecure, said I was just overthinking. She laughed it off and told me I was making a big deal out of nothing. But I saw her lie right in my face. I saw her squirm when I asked her about the photos. She said it was just a stupid mistake, that they were just artistic shots, that she never even thought it was a big deal. She told me I was overreacting because she was stressed, tired of her job, and that I should lighten up. But I knew better. I knew it was more than that. The emotional shock was overwhelming. It's a mix of disbelief, anger, and heartbreak all rolled into one. I've been trying to process it, trying to pretend it's not real, but every time I close my eyes, I see those photos. I see her, so close with him, so intimate, like she was craving that connection outside our marriage. It's the kind of betrayal that cuts deep. I'd always been faithful, always tried to be a good husband, and now I was sitting here, realizing the woman I loved and trusted had been lying to my face for who knows how long. I felt humiliated, angry, and deeply hurt, but I also knew I couldn't let her get away with it, not without consequences. After I found those photos on her phone, everything changed in an instant. I couldn't sleep that night, my mind racing with all these images and questions. How long had this been going on? Was it just the one time, or had she been sneaking around for months? I kept going over the photos, trying to find some clue, some sign I had missed before. But mostly, I just felt like I'd been sucker punched. All those years I spent trying to build a life with her, and now I suddenly see her in a different light, like she was hiding this whole other side of herself, one I never even knew existed. The next morning I woke up early, my stomach still clenched. I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine. I decided I had to confront her again, face to face, no more hiding from the truth. I found her in the kitchen, sipping coffee, her face looking bored and annoyed like I was just some pest bothering her. I looked at her and decided I wouldn't hold back this time. I showed her the photos on my phone, and her face immediately twisted into that usual bitchy smirk she always had when she was trying to lie her way out of something. She scoffed, rolled her eyes, and said, "Oh, so now you're accusing me of cheating. Please, you're just paranoid. You're overreacting as usual, it's not what you think." But her voice was shaky and I could see the guilt behind her eyes. I pressed her harder. I asked her what the hell was going on, how she could do something so disgusting behind my back. She just shrugged and said, "It was just sex, okay? It doesn't mean anything. That guy's just a photographer, not the love of my life." That's when she threw in her classic line, "You think I'm some kind of whore now? I'm not. I just needed a little excitement. You're so boring anyway." Her constant lies and deflections made me furious. I told her I knew she had been lying all along, that I saw her sneaking around, that I had enough. Her response? She started yelling at me, calling me insecure, jealous, and that I was ruining everything with my accusations. She claimed I was imagining things, that she was just trying to find herself again after years of marriage and motherhood. She said I was controlling, that I was making her feel trapped, but I knew the truth. I knew she was cheating, and I couldn't believe how easily she was trying to gaslight me. That day I felt like I was walking through a fog. The betrayal hit me so hard I couldn't think straight. I was hurt, of course, but mostly I was furious. How could she do this to me? To our family? And then the anger turned to a desire for revenge. Not some petty revenge, but something calculated, something she wouldn't see coming. I needed her to feel what I felt, like her world was crumbling around her, like she was losing control. That's when I started planning my next move. I knew I had to do something, something that would make her regret ever stepping outside our marriage and lying to my face. Over the next few days, I gathered evidence. I hired a private investigator, just to confirm what I already suspected, that this wasn't a one-time thing, that she'd been seeing this guy, Mark, for a while. I also started looking into the photographer himself. His name was Ryan, and from what I found, he was a guy with a reputation for being a player. Honestly, I had no intention of confronting him directly. My focus was Emily, and I wanted her to realize that her actions weren't just some mistake, they were a serious betrayal. Meanwhile, Emily kept trying to deny everything, acting like she was the victim. She gaslighted me, called me paranoid, said I was imagining things, but every time she did, I just felt more certain. This wasn't some fleeting affair. This was real, and she was trying to hide it. That realization fueled my resolve. I decided I was going to make her pay for what she did, but I wanted to do it in a way that she'd never forget, something calculated, something that would hit her right in her ego and her pride. I started thinking about how I could turn her own lies against her. I knew she'd try to deny everything, so I needed proof. I staged a confrontation, but it would be different this time. I wanted her to admit to me, to see her squirm under the weight of her own deception. I also wanted her to understand I wasn't going to take this lying down. I've always been the calm type, the one who tries to keep everything under control, but this was different. This was personal. This was about dignity, and I was determined to reclaim mine, so I kept my plans in motion. I set up hidden cameras, not just to catch her in the act, but to document her lies. I wanted her to see that I wasn't some naive fool. I was serious. I was hurt, but I was also angry enough to make sure she paid a price, one she wouldn't be able to deny or escape from. Deep down, I knew that whatever I did next, it would change everything. Our marriage, her perception of me, maybe even her life. But I couldn't live with this betrayal anymore. Not without pushing back. Not without making her understand that I was no longer going to be the fool she thought I was. The more I thought about it, the clearer it became. I needed to hit her where it hurt most, her ego, her reputation, and her sense of control. I wasn't just after some petty revenge. I wanted her to feel the way I felt, betrayed, humiliated, and powerless. I spent nights researching how to handle this, how to expose her without looking like the crazy husband who's losing his mind. I wanted her to see the truth in a way that would make her regret everything she'd done. In the meantime, I continued gathering evidence. I had the private investigator follow her for a few days. He snapped photos of her sneaking around with Ryan. I also found out that Emily had been lying about where she'd been during those late nights. She'd claimed she was out with friends, but the pictures told a different story. She was with him, in some of the most intimate settings you could imagine. They'd meet up at cafes, go for long drives, and even more disturbingly, she'd sometimes stay overnight. Every piece of evidence stacked up, and I realized I had everything I needed to finally confront her in a way that would shake her to her core. One evening, I decided to set my plan in motion. I invited her out for dinner, pretending I wanted to talk. I told her I had something important to say, something we needed to discuss, and she agreed, of course, with that bitchy little smirk she always had when she thought she was in control. We went to a nice restaurant and I kept my composure, though inside I was boiling. I had her right where I wanted her. I pulled out my phone and played the videos I'd secretly recorded. It was brutal. There she was, caught in the act, kissing him, touching him, being completely uninhibited. I watched her face turn pale as she realized what I was showing her. Her reaction was pure defiance. She scoffed, tried to brush it off, called me crazy again. "That's not what it looks like," she snapped, but I had the evidence. I had her dead to rights. I told her, "You've been lying to me for months, Emily. How could you do this? How could you betray our family for some stupid photos and sex with that guy Ryan?" She looked furious, then started crying, but it wasn't genuine tears. It was anger disguised as tears. "You're overreacting," she spat. "You're just jealous because I'm tired of. You're controlling bullshit." I needed something different, something exciting. That's when I finally saw her true colors. She was bitchy, manipulative, and completely self-absorbed. She dismissed my feelings like they didn't matter. Her whole attitude was, "I do what I want and you're just lucky I'm still here." It made me sick. I felt a strange mix of sadness and rage. Sadness because I truly loved her once, and rage because she had tossed that love aside like it was nothing. I knew then that I couldn't keep pretending she was innocent, and I couldn't keep pretending I didn't feel like I'd been punched in the gut. I told her she needed to leave, that I wanted her out of my house. She started screaming, calling me a possessive, jealous man who couldn't handle her freedom. She said I was a control freak and that I was ruining everything. But I didn't care. I said I was done, that I'd been hurt enough and I didn't want her near our daughter or me anymore. That was the moment I decided I'd had enough. Enough of her lies, enough of her manipulations, enough of her treating me like I was some idiot. That night I couldn't sleep again. I kept replaying the images in my head, trying to understand how someone I loved could do something so disgusting. I felt betrayed, angry, but also strangely empty. I knew I had to protect myself and our child from this toxic woman. I realized that this wasn't just about catching her cheating. It was about standing up for myself and reclaiming my dignity. No matter what happened next, I was finally done being the fool in this story. I'd take back control, even if it meant breaking my heart all over again. The following days were the hardest I've ever experienced. After that night, Emily was gone, packed her bags and left, slamming doors and yelling that I was overreacting and that she'd find her own way. I watched her drive off, feeling numb and hollow all at once. It was like a switch had been flipped inside me, and suddenly I was faced with the reality that I'd been living a lie for years. That woman I married. She wasn't who I thought she was. All those years I spent trusting her, caring for her, trying to build a family, she was out there sneaking around, messing around with some photographer and lying straight to my face. It was a punch I never saw coming. The house felt empty now, like a shell. I stayed up all night staring at the empty spaces where she used to be, replaying everything I'd uncovered. I kept asking myself, how did I miss all of this? How did I not see what was right in front of me? But the truth was I was blinded by love, or maybe just hope that she'd change, that she'd see reason and come back. But deep down I knew better. I knew I'd been played. I knew I had to do something. I couldn't just sit around feeling sorry for myself. I decided to get legal advice. I wanted to know my rights, what I was entitled to, what I could do to protect my daughter and myself. The lawyer said I had grounds for divorce and that I should start gathering everything, proof of her infidelity, any financial records, texts, emails. The more evidence I had, the better position I'd be in. I felt like I was in a war I hadn't signed up for, but I knew I had no choice but to fight for what was left of my dignity and my child's future. While all this was happening, I also started noticing her social media postings. She was posting pictures of herself with her friends, acting like she was living her best life. But her captions, they were full of bitchy comments about how boring her marriage was, how she was free at last, and how she was doing what she wanted. It was like she was trying to rub her betrayal in my face, trying to make me feel small. I won't lie, seeing that made me more angry, but it also made me realize she was only making things worse for herself. The thing that hurt the most, though, was how she dismissed our daughter during this. She kept saying she needed a break, that she was finding herself, but I knew it was really about her chasing that new high with Ryan. I kept my daughter close, making sure she knew her mom was going through a tough time, but it broke my heart that Emily was trying to manipulate this entire situation. She was trying to turn our daughter against me, saying I was controlling and jealous, when all I wanted was to protect her from the mess Emily had made. And then, out of nowhere, Emily called. She was crying, trying to act like she was the victim. She said she was sorry, that she didn't mean for things to get so out of hand, and that she loved us both. That was a lie, of course. I told her I didn't want to hear her lies anymore, that I was done playing her game. I told her to stop contacting us, that she was no longer part of our lives. I felt a strange mixture of relief and rage. Relief that I finally took control, and rage that I'd been so blind for so long. In that moment, I realized something important. I'd been doing everything to keep my family together, trying to fix what was broken. But some betrayals are too deep to mend. I knew I had to walk away, not just for my sake but for my daughter's future. I wanted her to see that sometimes love isn't enough, especially when it's betrayed in such a cruel way. I started planning for a fresh start, a way to rebuild my life without Emily dragging me through her mess. It wasn't easy. I had to fight tears, fight the guilt, and fight the urge to reach back out and beg her to stay. But I knew better. I knew I deserved better than a wife who used me, lied to my face, and then tried to turn everything upside down. I had to be strong for me, for my daughter, for the little shred of dignity I had left. I took the legal steps, filed for divorce, and prepared for the emotional storm that was about to come. I wasn't sure what the future held, but I knew one thing. I would never let her destroy me again. The divorce process dragged on, and honestly, every day felt like a new punch to the gut. I was trying to focus on the practical stuff, getting custody arrangements sorted, dividing up the assets, and making sure our daughter was shielded from all the chaos. But inside, I was still raw, still angry and hurt. Emily had become a stranger, and every time I saw her face, I was reminded of everything she'd done. Sometimes I wondered if I'd ever really recover from this betrayal, or if I was doomed to carry this weight forever. During that time, she kept trying to reach out, of course, mostly through text messages, trying to explain herself, apologize for hurting me, and claiming she still loved us. But her words felt hollow. I knew she was only trying to manipulate the situation to keep me hanging on, maybe hoping I'd change my mind. Honestly, I didn't want to hear her lies anymore. I just wanted her gone from my life. I kept my distance, stayed firm, and refused to let her pull me back into that toxic cycle. What struck me most was how she continued to act like she was the victim. In her social media posts, she'd spin the story differently, claiming she was misunderstood, that I was controlling and jealous, and that she was breaking free from a boring marriage. It was infuriating to see her twisting everything, as if I was the bad guy. I'd look at her pictures and wonder how someone can be so selfish, so blind to what she was doing to us. That was the moment I realized I'd been right all along, that Emily was more interested in her own thrill than in her family or even her own daughter. Meanwhile, I focused on building a new life for myself. I threw myself into work, tried to reconnect with friends, and spent more time with my daughter. She was the only thing keeping me afloat. I wanted her to see that even after betrayal, life could go on. I made sure she knew she was loved and safe, and I kept my promise to protect her from the chaos Emily was creating. It wasn't easy, especially when I felt the ache of losing the woman I married, but I knew I had to be strong for her and for myself. One day, Emily showed up unannounced, crying at my door. She looked different, worn out, her eyes red from crying. She begged me to forgive her, to let her come back, saying she was sorry for everything. She swore she'd change, that she'd stop seeing Ryan, and that she realized how much she loved me and our daughter. It was the kind of moment that makes your stomach turn, seeing her so desperate, so fake. I just looked at her coldly and told her she had already made her choices, that she'd lost her chance. I told her I didn't want her back, that she'd broken our family beyond repair. That confrontation was the end of it. She finally realized I was serious. She left, screaming and crying, but I felt nothing but numbness. That was the night I finally accepted that I had to let go of the past. I had to accept that Emily was gone, at least as my wife and partner. The betrayal had cut too deep, and no amount of words or tears could fix it now. I knew I'd have to rebuild myself piece by piece and learn how to live without her. The anger still lingered, but underneath that, there was a strange sense of relief. I had taken back control. Looking back now, I see how much I've grown from all of this. I learned that loyalty isn't just about staying committed, it's about respect and honesty. I also learned that some betrayals are so bad that they can't be fixed, no matter how much you want to believe in the good in someone. Most of all, I learned that I'm stronger than I thought, stronger than a woman who thought she could betray her family and get away with it. Moving forward, I'm focusing on me and my daughter, building a new life where trust isn't just a word, but a foundation that ensures I never get blindsided like this again. Now, sitting here reflecting on everything, I realize how much this whole experience has changed me. I used to believe in the idea of unconditional love, that marriage was about loyalty and trust no matter what. But I've come to see that sometimes people are just too broken or selfish to hold on to those values. Emily's betrayal shattered that illusion, and honestly, it broke a part of me too. Still, in the wreckage, I found a new kind of strength I didn't know I had. It's like I had to lose her to finally see what I deserved, someone who would treat me with respect, honesty, and fidelity. I've learned that the worst betrayals are the ones closest to you. The people you trust the most, the ones you share your life with, can turn out to be the ones who hurt you the deepest. And yet, even after all that pain, I've come out the other side with a clearer sense of myself. I've learned to prioritize my own well-being, and that sometimes walking away is the bravest thing you can do. It's not about giving up. It's about recognizing when a relationship is beyond salvage and having the courage to let go. My daughter has been my greatest blessing through all of this. Watching her grow, seeing her smile, knowing I'm doing my best to give her stability, those are the things I hold on to now. I want her to see that even when life throws you the worst, you can rebuild, you can heal, and you can come out stronger. I hope she learns from my experience that honesty, loyalty, and respect are what really matter. That betrayal might hurt like hell, but it doesn't have to define you. As for Emily, I've moved on mentally. I won't pretend I don't feel anger or that I don't still think about the betrayal sometimes. Those memories will stay with me for a while. But I've made peace with the fact that she chose her own selfish path, and I refuse to let her poison my future. I wish her well, not because I want her to succeed, but because I understand now that some people are just broken beyond repair. They can't be fixed, only left behind. Looking back, I realized that this whole mess was a wake-up call. It taught me not only about the betrayal and the lies, but also about my own resilience. I'm more cautious now, more aware of the signs when someone's not being truthful. I don't take my relationships for granted anymore, and I know that trust isn't something to be given lightly. It's something you earn every single day. Finally, I want anyone reading this to know, if you're going through something similar, don't blame yourself. Love isn't supposed to hurt like this. Sometimes people are just not who they pretend to be, and that's okay. It hurts, but you will survive. You will find happiness again, even if it feels impossible right now. Just remember, you're stronger than your pain, and someday you'll look back and see how far you've come. Life goes on, and so will you.